Lucy, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, like I said. And we can't wait to hear your story. And did you want to lead in on, say anything at the beginning, and then I'll dig in with some questions for you?
Well, thank you for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm so excited, and thank everyone else for actually showing up to listen to me talk.
Sure. Oh, gosh, it is our pleasure, and stuff. So now tell us a little bit about, Stash Charlotte. Tell us, the whole, what is it?
Well, Stash started as a yarn store about 14, 15 years ago, probably longer, called Baskets of Yarn. The owner had worked for Martha Stewart, moved back to Charlotte, started like this little home party thing for knitters. That grew into a store. She had a baby. She sold the store. The second owner had it for a few years, decided she needed her life back and she was going to close the store. And I decided that would have left one knitting store in Charlotte at that point. And I was like, that's too few. And the other store is fabulous, by the way. I'm not knocking the other store, but you need more than one knitting store in a city this size. And so that's kind of how I wound up with the store. And so we started with yarn, but I knit, I also crochet, but I also sew and quilt. And I thought, I got a store. Why not? So I started adding fabric. And from there, we added embroidery kits and cross stitch kits, and then sewing machines because I have a store. Why not? So it's an evolving venture, but we are currently as I said, one of two yarn shops in the city of Charlotte, and we are the only fabric store in the city of Charlotte, which is ridiculous for a city this size. But
very much so.
That's who we are.
Well, no, that's wonderful. That you offer a lot of services, and I think I also understood that you also have like classes or something online. You do or something?
Well, we were doing classes in person. We've since, because of the pandemic, we've been doing some classes online, not intentionally, but we will be intentionally rolling out Zoom classes going forward, just for safety reasons.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. That makes total sense and stuff, Let's see here. What would be your best-selling product? What really flies off the shelf that you can't keep on?
Well, believe it or not, in the last 3 months, it's sewing machines. And that took me by surprise. But because of the pandemic, everyone's decided they need to sew masks. And I'm getting so much interest in sewing machines, and it's not who you would well, I guess my expectations are clearly wrong. I have sold sewing machines to young men who've decided they need to learn to sew. I had one young man contact me 2 weeks ago, and I said to him, do you sew? Do you know anyone who sews? No, but he was going to watch a YouTube video, and bless his heart, he is. And he seems to be doing fine because I emailed him, said, do you need anything? He goes, no, I'm good. So sewing machines, that's my bestseller right now.
That's really good because I can hear in what you're saying that you actually form a real kind of almost relationship with your customers and your clients, so to speak, and you check on them and stuff. That's really good. That's a good thing.
We don't, so our philosophy is you can buy yarn at Michael's, but the folks at Michael's are not going to help you with anything. You can buy a sewing machine at Costco, but when you can't figure out how to thread that machine and YouTube isn't helping, what are you going to do? So that's the different layer that a smaller store will offer. It's also why our prices are a little bit higher, which is really hard to explain until someone's experienced having wasted 2 days trying to find an answer on YouTube, and they come in, I'm like, oh, that 1, 2, 3, 4, done. So
right, absolutely, you're exactly right. Yeah, that is an awesome thing. If you don't mind, let me ask about tell us something about what would be the best thing of being an owner of Stash.
Best thing. Oh, the people. I have met like the most, oh my gosh. We moved to Charlotte from New York City 25 years ago. And
We see some other New Yorkers, I see.
yep. And, the joke was in the school that my children attended, they were so proud. They told us, we have 25 languages spoken at this school by the students. I'm like, I got 30 in my building in New York.
Right.
And so for me, what's been great about this is it got me out of that South Charlotte bubble. I have met the most amazing group of people, you're from your straight up church ladies to the drag queens, and everybody in between. And it's been so much fun. It really has.
Well, good. So now I'm gonna play a little bit devil's advocate too. What would be one of the downsides? There's been an issue like with, you can even say something like permits or location finding or anything.
I can't travel.
I got you.
I can't leave town, which this is something I hadn't quite realized.
Mm-hmm.
I have great staff, but sometimes, a customer, sometimes when something goes wrong, and things do go wrong, they need to talk to the owner. Okay. And if I'm not there, it doesn't help. It doesn't matter who's talking to them, doesn't matter how good the person is that's talking to them, they need to talk to me. And so it's cut down on my ability to travel. Yeah.
So, well, that actually was one of the questions I was thinking about asking. I was going to ask you if you get to travel and look for luxurious, fabrics and stuff, in Singapore or something,
No. Let me bring it right down to earth right now. Okay. I get to go to the beautiful city of Columbus, Ohio, and to Cologne, Germany.
Okay.
In March.
Oh, okay.
Lovely. Well, Cologne was rebuilt after the war, so it mostly looks like Bridgeport, Connecticut, but parts of it are lovely, but not in March. There's a reason why we have a big trade show in March, because nobody's there and it's cheap. So no, you don't get to go to fun places, although I do get to go to Vogue Knitting in New York in January. And last year, I went to the Yarn Festival in Ireland, and that was a lot of fun, although it rained the whole time, but it's Ireland.
Yeah. Wow, that's still something though, even though not getting you to travel as much, that's pretty good. So, let's see, was there any kind of like lucky break that came your way that helped?
I was in the right place at the right time. When the prior owner decided she was going to close the store, I happened to belong to the knitting group at the store, so I knew about it beforehand, and had some time to think about whether or not this is something I wanted to do. Okay. So,
right.
I think that counts as a lucky break.
Absolutely, it definitely does, and stuff, because, that was, well, and I guess that can kind of lead into another question that I have for you. Has this always been like a dream for you to own your own store, regardless of it being yarn? If it had been a bookstore, did you always want to be an owner of a? Okay, all right.
Retail is not. I worked retail during college in New York at Lord and Taylor.
Okay, yeah.
And loved it, but that was because I had a massive discount. And it wasn't my problem.
Right.
But no, retail is not something you go into blind, and I did, and that's been a little bit of a surprise. But no, this was not a lifelong dream. It just happened. You were talking about the lucky break. It just sort of lined up. Yep, and I kind of fell into it.
Okay. Now, that
I have a question as well from the chat, Lucy. Someone was wondering, how do you select your fabrics?
It's a very small space, so we have very limited selection. So basically, it's all the stuff we like. Here's the theory behind it. Okay, there's science behind this. If it doesn't sell, my staff, we're just going to take it home. That's how we select.
That's a sale, that's, 100% sale right there, one way or the other. Perfect, Now piggybacking on what we were just talking about, with the retail, you were starting to say about retail, that was kind of an eye opener as you were coming into it and stuff. Now that you are in it and successfully in it, do you have any, suggestions for anybody, if they do want to go into something similar? And, do you think that there a certain education, like would be marketing, any?
Yeah, because retail now is not the same as retail even 10 years ago. You need to have, because the point of sale systems are all computerized.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have an online presence. You have to have a website. You have to have an Instagram account. You have to have a Facebook account, minimum those two. Then there's Pinterest, Twitter, TikTok, and all the other ones. You have to be tech savvy.
Okay.
It's not, you have to understand financials. You have to be tech savvy. It's not just about, I know how to pick out pretty clothes. Because if you can't run all that yourself, you're going to end up spending a lot of money paying other people to do it for you. And it's a lot of money. Setting up a website will run anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. If you can run it, I did my own because I have a background in that. But, anyone who's got a background in software engineering, in HTML, and can run around Excel spreadsheets, that's a total leg up right there.
Okay. Wow, that's good to know. It sounds like we've gotten really technical, than back in the day when you just kind of got a shop, and put a sign up and, now, because I think I actually saw the chat seemed to have popped up.
There is a question.
Mm-hmm.
What drives customers to your store?
A lot of our social media does. It's imagery. And this is the other thing that you also need to be fairly decent at is photography and understanding spatial relationships and colors. The photography brings them in. And because it's yarn, it's fabric, and it's a high touch item, that brings them into the store. A lot of them will just buy it online, sight unseen, but a lot of them will also come into the store to look. The social media also helps bring our name out. I mean, the store has been in that physical location for over a decade. And to this day, I have people coming in who literally live 3 blocks away who tell me they never knew there was a store there. And they only found us because they were, playing around on Instagram and we popped up.
That's the way, And then I bet, is it, on one level, Charlotte is trying to be the big city, but I bet there's also still that word of mouth going on as well, especially in this is a very niche, what I'm saying? So I'm sure that has helped too.
It does. And, up until I would say even 10 years ago, before Charlotte had that massive second boom, we had that boom 20 years ago when Sealand came in.
Yes.
And then First Union, and we had all these people come in and Charlotte boomed. But then we've had that second wave. I mean, up until then, we knew each other. Every knitter in town knew each other because we would run into each other at the same few shops. Now, this influx of people, all these new people, they're still finding a way. And every day I'm meeting someone new who's just moved to town. So, yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's great, and stuff. Well, and that actually led to another question for you. Do you have a lot of international customers that, contact you and want something sent to them or?
Yeah, I've shipped as far away as Australia. Let me tell you, that postage was not cheap.
Oh my.
I have followers. I have a couple of dedicated ones in Montreal, Canada, for some reason. Several in Turkey.
Turkey.
And because it's an online shop and we, ship domestic pretty much, so today, for example, I sent the package that was going the furthest away today was going to Utah.
Okay. So yeah, you're getting a lot of exposure, not just local.
Yeah,
It's
because
a
of
lot.
Instagram.
Yep.
Because of Instagram. Mhm.
Because of the Instagram. Absolutely. I tell you. Well, and I hate to say this kind of leads me to another kind of line of questioning. How has the COVID affected everything, for you? I know the store is closed at the moment and you're, yes, reopening on June 12th, everybody.
By
June
appointment.
12th.
By appointment. Yeah. No. I actually closed before the state mandated closure because I have a lot of elderly customers, and bless their hearts, they will come out. You know,
Yep.
if the store's
Yep.
open, they're coming out because they're
They're
bored.
going to come.
Yeah, they're going to come. So I closed. And what we've been doing primarily is online sales. And of yarn, of fabric, of sewing machines online, and we've been shipping all over the place too. As I mentioned, classes we've been doing on Zoom. When we reopen, it's going to be by appointment only, so we can only have maximum 2 people in the store at a time because it's a small space. And this way, we can pretty much follow behind people and wipe. Not that I think people are germ covered, but
Right.
when
Right.
you can be asymptomatic for 2 days and be spreading it for 2 days and not know it, because people are well intentioned. They're not coming out if they're sneezing and coughing,
Right.
but they don't know it.
Right.
And that's what again, I've got the elderlies, I've got young moms with kids. I don't need to be sharing these germs around.
And the something like, because I can imagine in a yarn, in a yarn fabric, any type of store in this area, that people kind of like to touch the yarn and the fabric. They might want to touch it on their skin and stuff. I assume that's all.
Hey guys, I think I just lost you.
Uh-oh. No problem.
I am currently I'm tethering on my phone, so hopefully this will get us through. So actually this touches on a point of things you need to be able to do as a yarn store owner.
You're great. So
all your tech problems yourself.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I'm amazed at how you are so versed in this. I really am amazed, because you know more about the tech and Zoom than I do. So I know who to come to. So I sure do. I see others pointing like, we know who we're going to come to. We'll come to you to ask those questions. In the meantime, while we were waiting for you to return, we were telling everybody, Teresa spoke about the different types of fabrics that you had been telling her about, that were there. And I had started to touch on the fact that you have some ideas about how, you're not going to, the customers are not going to be able to come in and rub that, yarn on themselves. And that's where I left off, that you had some ideas about.
Okay.
So you're welcome.
We welcome people to come in, but we're going to discourage touching because there's no way to keep it clean. One of the things that they do in Europe is that, customers will go in and they will point at what they want, and the sales staff brings it to them and shows it to them, but the customer doesn't touch it. We are probably going towards that model, but I would hate to do it, so hopefully if people will just, and I think most people will do it, is just trying to remember to do it, just not touch.
Not touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I know that it'll be hard for them because I know that, I was explaining to the program, that you don't necessarily want something that's going to be itchy, like an older type of yarn, and stuff. And I know they've got all these new weaves and blends that they can now do that makes it so different. And so I guess it'll actually be up to you and your staff to kind of explain, what the nuances are, for lack of a better word, about each one. So, it's a changed world. That's what I've got to say, and stuff. One last quick question from my side, and then I'm gonna turn it over so that they can ask questions. I know they had quite a few had a question. Is there anything that really helped you as you were getting started in this? Did the Chamber of Commerce of Charlotte help you any? Is there anything you want to kind of brag on? Let me put it that way.
The other yarn store owners that I know.
Okay.
I belong to a group of 200 plus yarn store owners. There's actually several groups, and and they're all private groups on Facebook. You have to be vetted to be allowed in. And that's where I got most of my information on, which vendors are reliable, what to do about applying for emergency disaster loans. All of that came from that group. Because we're in a very niche industry, Charlotte Chamber, I'm sure, has a lot of thoughts for restaurants and that type, but from us, none of it really applies. So that's who I go to. And because that group is so dispersed, you don't get that sense of, ooh, but you're my competitor from up the highway kind of thing.
Right.
And so people tend to be more open with suggestions and ideas.
Which is okay. All right, that's a valid point. So, and at this point, I guess I'll turn the floor over and ask if anybody has any questions, and you can either ask it in the chat if you don't want to, speak out in front of everybody, because I know that can be intimidating, or you're welcome to just unmute yourself and ask a question.
I have a few.
Oh, go ahead.
So how long are appointments usually? Is there a time frame that they last, or?
We're keeping them to half an hour for right now, just so that we have enough of them to go around. Yeah.
Okay. And then do you teach people how to understand patterns, kind of sewing patterns and crochet patterns, things like that?
Not in formal classes.
Okay.
Crochet patterns, yes, because those charts, we did have a class on how to read the charts. But for sewing patterns, that tends to be more of a hands-on kind of thing. And what we do is we pick a project and then we kind of walk through the project and talk about it that way.
Okay.
Interesting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good questions. Anybody? Any questions for Lucy? Anybody have any?
Everyone's being shy.
Yes, they are. They are being shy, and stuff. So,
so would you have to offer private lessons for someone who wanted to learn to sew a skirt or a dress? Would that be how that would be done? Or would you be able to do that in a group like you usually do?
We haven't gotten that far with sewing yet, unfortunately. We're still trying to work that one out because that's a tough one to do on Zoom. Because machine settings, so one great example is the Janome machines come with needle. It's an automatic threader. You literally push a button and it threads the machine.
Ooh,
and
wow.
the biggest complaint though online is that everyone's complaining that their threaders don't work. Well, the threaders are fine. It's the user. So it's impossible to figure that out on Zoom because I need to see what they're doing. But in a classroom setting, I can walk around, I can spot who's going to have trouble. So we're kind of trying to work that through. And then, so other weird issues that came up. I did a sewing troubleshooting session with a customer who it was a brand new machine, could not get it to tension properly. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind. And it finally dawned on me. I asked her, what kind of thread are you using? And it turned out she was using thread that belonged to her late mother. That thread had to be my age.
Oh.
And I'm like, let's try a new thread. If she'd been in the store, I would have spotted it immediately. But because she's at home and we're, like balancing phones and things, it took me the better part of probably 2 hours to figure this out. And we were both like, oh, duh.
Wow, I bet so. I have a quick question, actually. I'm hearing a lot, about the crocheting and the knitting and everything. I haven't heard anybody mention cross-stitching. Is that in this as well, too, somewhere?
We have cross-stitch kits.
Okay.
I don't teach it because that's a YouTube video.
Right. Okay.
There's nobody. I have never met someone who can figure it out from a YouTube video.
Okay.
And back in the day, I learned by a book, which I got at my local library. So cross stitch is not hard. So we have some kits, but we don't. There's nothing really there that's all that difficult.
Fair enough. Thank you. I've always heard people, talking about cross stitching, and then all of a sudden I haven't been hearing it recently. I guess that's a question for you. You're able to see trends that, when something is hot versus not. So like, I assume at certain times, crocheting gets very popular, and then knitting would be, versus and stuff. So is that?
Yeah, we do. We see the trends. Knitting is sort of trending down.
Okay.
Crochet is picking up, especially Tunisian crochet.
Oh.
And so we're seeing a lot more patterns coming up for crochet. Crochet for years was like the province of the old lady squad, restraint. Okay. If you remember back, actually, most of you are too young to remember the hot pants from the 70s, the crochet bathing suits. Bless their hearts. Fortunately, that has sort of we've passed that. And now we're getting some really interesting patterns coming up for crochet.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's like good to know.
I have an interesting question from chat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a business plan for 5, 10, and 15 years from now? And also, is franchising in your future?
Oh.
I do have a business plan. Franchising is not in my future because I'm exhausted now and I cannot imagine. No, but also, a franchise, every yarn store has its own personality, and a lot of that personality is derived from the owner. I have a good buddy who owns a yarn shop out in Missouri. Bless her heart, she is so different from me in so many ways. She drives a truck. She has no internet at the house, so she has to drive to the top of a hill so she can pick it up on her phone. Every time it rains, we have to check with her to see the snakes have come up from the river. So her shop has a very different personality from mine.
Right. Wow.
And, we love the same things. We value the same things. I love her to death, but her shop is not going to be the same as mine. My shop is not going to be the same as, Wild Skeins up in Hickory, my friend Cam Corsi up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very hard to franchise something like this because with a franchise, everything has to be the same. And that's why I don't think it would work.
Good question. Wonderful. Let's see. Well, I know that. Does anybody else have a question?
The most favorite item that you've ever created?
Probably my daughter's first communion dress, 35 years ago. I bought a state-of-the-art sewing machine. It was state-of-the-art. It had a computer. Oh my gosh. And I made her veil. I took silk organza and I created lace on the veil using this brand new state-of-the-art computerized sewing machine that did embroidery. And I smocked the front. I did embroidery on the collar. I did cute little roses on the back buttons. It's an heirloom piece. So yeah, I think that's my favorite.
Wow, that sounds beautiful.
Do I sell batik fabric? No, I would love to. I don't have space. It's unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very small shop, guys. If you come in, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's yarn, there's fabric. I've got sewing machines crammed in there. If I had more space, yeah, you better believe I'd have more fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Deneen has asked if you're hiring.
Oh.
Was. I'm not now.
Right.
Yeah, I typically do bring on extra staff, especially for the holidays. Mm-hmm. This year, who the heck knows? Yeah. But, if you're interested, pop me a resume. There is actually, I have a form that you can fill out. I don't think it's linked anymore because there was no point in having it up. But pop me an email. I'll send you the information. I do require that you be able to, minimum, either knit really well or crochet really well. And then being able to sew or at least understand sewing is a plus.
There you go.
Oh, I was just saying I can sew.
That's excellent.
So you've got a
And Steady Eddie will give her a great reference.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. She is
Okay, so forget what I've said about those NYU dorms. They're awful.
There you go. They're right where you are, you know. So.
I have a quick question. What has been so far your most unusual request from a customer? The most unusual product or service that they asked for?
Yeah, I can. We have this one customer who I adore. He is probably in his mid-20s. His grandmother is in her mid-80s. His grandmother is a fabulous knitter, but she can't see anymore. Does it sound familiar? And I think she's having issues with her hands. So he came in because grandma wanted to make him a sweater. It was great. She kind of knew what she wanted. She had a pattern. She picked out a yarn. We do this, via FaceTime on his phone because she doesn't live in town. And sent it off to her, and it came back, and he came in with it, and he had it on him. Oh, bless your heart. It was, you could have fit 4 people in that sweater.
Ooh.
But, so we literally spent the better part of 2 weeks trying to figure out how to make that sweater fit. And do it in such a way that she wouldn't be able to tell we'd done it, because he had to send her a picture. And so we spent, as I said, better part of 2 weeks, we ran. Those of you who are listening who knit will know what I'm talking about, because the whole thing, the gauge was wrong. It was too big. Whole thing sagged. It was ginormous. His aunt evidently even said to him, "You wore that out in public." We ran cotton thread through it, through the collar, down the shoulders to kind of hike that thing up so it wouldn't, because it was a wool yarn, it was sagging. We hiked it up, we jerry-rigged it, we reblocked it and pushed it together. And there's a picture of him on our Instagram feed with his grandmother. And also one of him wearing the sweater, and it doesn't look too bad.
Oh,
but
oh.
That one and the request that we always get, and I didn't mention this first because it's not that rare. We constantly get requests from people to ask if we will repair the Afghan that grandma made for them, and grandma's long since passed on, that they had on the couch and the dog chewed up.
Oh, yeah.
Can I beg all of you, please, if you have an Afghan that grandma made for you that you treasure, do not leave it on the couch where the dog can just get to it. Because, we can repair it to a certain extent. And actually, I don't offer that service anymore because it just takes way the heck too much time, and it makes us feel bad.
Yeah.
Don't leave that thing out. Put it someplace where the animals can't get to it. Take care of it. There's only so much you can do in terms of a repair. Questions?
No, and along those same lines, what about quilt repair? I know that's very
Oh no, that's a whole.
And, yeah.
We don't touch. We won't touch.
That's fair enough. Yep.
That's a lot of that is actually not even repair; it's restoration. And there are people who have master's degrees in it. I don't touch it.
Yes. Yeah, I totally got you and stuff. I see somebody has thrown you a compliment big time. They said that your Instagram page is amazing. So they've already gone to it. So, they've already looked, Now,
thank you.
Oh, and a second on that too. So now, before I kind of wrap up the program or anything, does anybody have any more questions for Lucy? Anybody? And you can always, not everybody here had the opportunity to register, so I'm not sure how they'd be able to get me their emails. So I don't think they want to put it out on the public chat and stuff, but I don't mind to give mine out. Mine is my business email, and they can always contact me. And if you send me your contact information, I will be sure to get you all of Lucy's contact information and stuff, and of course her website as well. If you just look for Stash, Stash Charlotte. So, but if you want to email to me or thing, I'll get it to you. It's wmason@cmlibrary.org. And I know that, kind of as a thank you for coming and kind of thank you for being interesting, I think Lucy graciously has a little something that she was going to kind of offer to you guys.
It's a little coupon code, PLCMC, for Public Library Charlotte Mecklenburg. And it's 10% off on any purchase of $50 or more, and that includes on sewing machines.
Thank you so much. That is very generous of you to do that, and we can't appreciate you enough for doing this and doing this program. I hope that everybody who has attended has enjoyed it and has learned as much as I have. I had no idea. This has blown my mind in a lot of ways. I just thought that this was just going to be a yarn store, but this turns out to be a whole community and a family almost, It's wonderful. So I cannot thank you all enough for attending. And if you have any questions or anything, just reach out to me and I'll get Lucy's contact information to people as needed.
For having me. I love the library. Thank you guys so much for doing this.
You're most welcome. We thank you. So, and I see somebody says before you leave that they hope that you can squeeze in a vacation.
Absolutely.
So that's wonderful. So thank you everybody for attending. And, one last quick thing. If anybody has any questions about setting up their own business, of course, library at cmlibrary.org has got some references for you. Gale Business Entrepreneurship is on our resources page. And then there's also something about small businesses as well, if you just type in small business in the search box. So if you have any questions there on starting your own business, we'll help you out. That's what we're here for. So thank you so much for attending, everybody. And we survived any kind of internet glitches and everything for the rest of the time. So it worked perfectly. Can't thank you all enough for attending.
She's amazing.
Bye.
Bye, Lucy. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for attending.